While we are waiting, is it on? It's good? Yeah? Um, Contrary to, popular belief, they say that in the South we speak slow, but I really do get going pretty fast. So if you need me to slow it down, I'm happy to do it. But thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kopernik team, for inviting me here today. I'm just super delighted to be here on behalf of Integrated Biometrics. We've had a very, very nice partnership with. Like right up. Ah, can you hear now? There's the commercial. So should I start over? We're good. Kopernik, long partnership. We started, they integrated our single finger device, the Colombo, into their C1 EID. And and in fact, I was telling Jackie earlier, we had to make a special bezel for them. It's this little silver bezel, and it is forever in the IB price sheets as the CNC, the Kopernik Colombo. And then, of course, from there, about 3 years ago, moved to the ID platform using our 5.0, which is a four-finger slap, which is used to do enrollments. This has been just a wonderful product, I think. I think it was, what, 3 years ago it came out? It's funny, I don't know about everyone else, but the pandemic, I lost a year. It just, poof, went away. And we are live. All right. So what we're here today is the new device. And I don't know how much discussion was done earlier about this, but this is the Access ER. And the silver device at the top is our Dano, which is IB's new product as well. So we're going to be talking about that little piece of the puzzle today. I would like to reach into their minds and go, I think I know why you picked us. We have a number of things that make us special in the market, and that's what I would like to talk to you about. Uh-oh. It's basically what IB calls the secret sauce. It's film. It's all it is. But it's very, very special film. It's in all of our sensors. And the things that we can brag about, if you will, is that it is lightweight, rugged. I can almost see that screen. Low power consumption, works in extreme light and temperature conditions, and thus is ideal for mobile solutions. So these are all really great words. They're exciting words if you're working on the border, if you're working with police, if you're doing anything that requires mobility, especially in difficult situations. But they're words. Why? I think that's the interesting question that I'm asked to explain, and I think it's the thing that sets IB apart from other fingerprint sensors that you'll find in the market. I don't know how knowledgeable this audience is on fingerprint sensors, but a traditional sensor, you've seen it sitting on a desk. It's kind of big, has a big light coming out of it, so it has to be plugged into a power source. It's based on a prism. And ultimately, what you are doing is taking a picture of the fingerprint that's laying on the glass platen, what is on top of the sensor. And this is where we go in a completely different direction. Like I said, we're based on this film. And we care about not what's on top of the film, but what comes through the film. So as a result, what you have there is what they call a multi-level polymer. It's just thick film that has all these little light-emitting sensor particles throughout it. And the sensors get very, very excited when they see electricity. So with our sensors, and you will see it every time, the common element is you've got film in the middle and some sort of frame or bezel or ground around the edges of it. You see it on the 5.0, you see it at Kopernik, the CNC. I don't have any other devices with me. With the Kojak, too. What you have happen is, and I'm hoping we could sort of spread those around, when you attach the human finger, which is conductive, to the film, and with the bezel, you have electricity running across the finger now. And it's running across those ridges on my fingerprint. And then the film gets really excited and creates these images, these blue images. And everybody's blue to us, by the way. We can't tell, you know, what is laying on the sensor. It is a blue fingerprint. But it is a crystal clear fingerprint, unaffected by things like sunlight, bright lights in an airport, latent fingerprints. If you've had a lot of people touch it and there's latent fingerprints on there, we don't see that. If it's not conductive, we don't get it, which is important because then we eliminate all of the environmental issues that other fingerprint sensors have. And then on top of that, because it is film and because it is so lightweight and because it doesn't require a power source, we can be put in these mobile devices. This is sort of one additional sort of a picture of it so that you can see how the whole process works. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is provide a solution that gets really high quality images, puts it in a mobile form, and doesn't have all these problems. You don't have officers kind of going back out and having to re-enroll. And because we are not dragging down the battery, because this requires very little power, the officers can be out doing their jobs. They're not back at the office doing the recharging the kit or swapping out a battery. They're also not walking around with something that's making them drag their arms. It's a lightweight, as we have seen in the devices that have been presented. So the things that we look at with the technology is we are able to capture rapidly the dry fingers, the worn fingers of workers, because we can manipulate the level of electricity that's coming through the sensor to grab the image. We can actually brighten the film a little bit when we see a dry finger. So we excel in that area, which is a problem often with people coming off of planes. They're really dry. Older people have very dry fingers. People that work with their hands can be very dry and difficult to capture. You also have in our technology 2 levels of spoofing. With the technology, as I mentioned at the beginning, you have to have a conductive human finger. It has to be able to move electricity across. If somebody uses, and we're talking about pretty unsophisticated spoofs, but Play-Doh or wood glue or whatever, they are not going to be conductive. So when they put that on the sensor, you're not even going to get an error message. It simply isn't going to capture. It'll just be a black screen. So that's hardware spoof. Now, to be perfectly honest, a dead finger is conductive. And we can be used and are used internationally, including right here in France. The gendarmerie, their DVI, the Disaster Victim Identification Group, they use our sensor, the Watson Mini, to do their very sad work, if you can imagine, but important. And they've even, the commander of the division has even submitted a paper to a national forensics journal, a peer-reviewed journal, saying that Watson Mini is the device that they prefer and why. And so we come with pretty decent references on that. But the fact is that is capturing a dead finger, and that's a problem in some of our industries. So we needed to go and add software spoofing and liveness, and I've got a separate little slide on that, and we'll come back to it. Again, as I've mentioned, I sort of feel like we're going over some of the same things. Unaffected by extreme temperatures, so high, low temperatures, low power, very lightweight. This is an important piece of it that I think is also a little hidden part of our history. The predecessor company that created LES technology, and this is a patented technology, we're the only ones that have it, was a company that focused on access entry. So early 90s, the first Iraq conflict was going on, and the Department of Defense in the U.S. Basically came to us and said, we think you have something very interesting that could be useful for us. You have to keep in mind, soldiers were going out into the field, and the only way that they had to record the fingerprints was to bring what was available at the time, which was a quite large box. So they, heavy backpack out into the desert with the fingerprint sensor, and then a whole extra backpack full of batteries to run it. On top of that, keep in mind again, what do you see at those traditional sensors? It has a light coming out of it. We've all seen it, usually green, right? That light became a target for snipers. So it could not be used in the desert. And this was the sort of the germination of IB becoming a certified provider of sensors. And we provided the Watson Mini, and we built it to military specs, and we've never gone back on that. Every sensor we put out is built to U.S. military specs. So it gives you it underlies that claim that we're rugged. If you don't think the U.S. military is rugged, then okay, But anyway, so that's part of that process as well. We don't have to use silicone surface films, which are expensive and have to be changed out. You don't have to worry about latent prints. We talked about the halo effect. And, bottom line, we think we're very competitively priced. We have a 1-year warranty. And we talk about low maintenance costs, but I think that's a misnomer. I don't think there is maintenance with us. If you're going to have a problem, it's going to be right at the beginning. It's going to be something out of manufacturing. It happens. But bottom line is there are no moving parts. This is something that's built to work and keep on working. And so you're not going to have, onward costs associated with our products. So back to spoof. So we already talked about the hardware spoof, the hardware-based spoof rejection. The next piece of it is software liveness and spoof detection. So as I mentioned, you have electrical signals, right, going across the film. And our software reads that. There's almost like little signatures. So we know what the signature is coming off of a live finger. And this is what's special about us. Nobody else has electricity running across their sensors, so nobody else can claim to do this. Like everyone, we have an AI piece of our software, which is basically evaluating the image to see if we think it's live or if it's a spoof. But on top of that, we can read these electrical signals, and this is something we're getting patented right now, that basically will send out a message that we think you should take a second look. We think that there's something wrong with this fingerprint, just based on the signals that you're seeing. So that software, that's PAD software is included in our SDK. We currently have the iBeta certification on our Kojak. We're working on 5.0 and Watson Mini, and then Colombo and Dano will be next. But it's a software product. We've gotten certification on the first sensor. We really feel pretty confident that you will see iBeta on all of our products very soon. I keep doing that. Yeah, oh, good, thank you. The only additional piece of sort of technical stuff to talk about is the difference between this device, because like I said, everything is film in a bezel, right? Is that, you see, this is a box. So there's a little CMOS camera in the bottom of this that is pointed up and takes a picture of the bottom of the film that we talked about earlier. With 5.0, with Dano, which I managed to leave out on the table, but is the device that you will find in the new sensor. These are all based on TFT technology. Our film is bonded to film that is it's called a thin film transistor array. It's somebody else's technology, but it allows for the capture in a very, very slim form factor, which then again allows for the creation of handheld devices that are also very slim, like you have seen today. This is a discussion about the Dano. I don't know that that's this important, but this is what is in the new device. But And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that TFT, while relatively new, it's been field tested. The FBI uses the 5.0. This is something we have a lot of confidence in. It's not going to break down in the field, and we have well over 10,000 units in the field working today. So it's not something you feel like you're going out there and taking a chance on unknown technology. This is very interesting, and this is sort of I think, interest to everybody in our industry. When COVID first was on the news and we were shutting down, I think there was a general shudder of weirdness in my industry where we touch our sensors. And is this being transferred through our sensors? It was very, very disturbing, as you can imagine. Now, they came out pretty early on, the CDC did, and I believe WHO, I think. Yeah, yeah. To say that this is primarily an airborne disease. This is how it gets transmitted. Now, nobody's not saying you touch it, you stick it in your eye or whatever, you're going to get it. But the bottom line is it's primarily airborne. It was there. Thank you. What we were doing during that time was starting to look for ways that we could do sanitizing, special cleaning. We were trying to do internally some research on what to do. And our chief science officer, who was one of the gentlemen that created the technology and is still with us, was reading an article on what kills viruses. And there's two things out there that do, and oddly enough, one of them is copper. Does you know this? Yay, I know. The other thing is electricity. We're back on that topic again. Electricity kills viruses. The cells have these charged particles within them, and when you apply an electrical current to it, it literally makes them pull apart. It just explodes the cell, and it kills any kind of virus, including COVID. So, what's the next step? Are we putting enough electricity across the field, the platen, to kill COVID, right? So we took the sort of the idea to the University of Missouri, and they have one of those high-tech labs where people are in white and, dealing with viruses. And their findings were that after a 2-second exposure on our sensors, 68% of the virus was destroyed. Now, up to a minute, it was 97%. Now, we know nobody's going to sit there and touch these devices for a minute. So they're back looking at the testing and at the data and trying to see how much can we say is being killed in the time it takes to do a traditional enrollment, if you will. So we're looking for more of that. Another piece of this would be, can we send a surge of electricity after the person has left and try to then kill whatever. So there's interesting things going on at IB trying to follow this lead to see if it's something we can say, but wouldn't it be ironic if we could say that the safest thing you touch all day is your fingerprint sensor? So that's our plan. I also point out this, I think it's a very important reference. How often do you see a government agency go so far as to put something on their letterhead? And in this case, it was about the Kojak, but I feel very confident talking about this because, again, the technology is the same across the entire spectrum of certified sensors. They basically said no other fingerprint sensors were found capable of meeting weight, size, power requirements, and also being FBI certified. In other words, you don't have to test, you don't have to tender, you just can buy this product. And you have to understand that's a huge feather, we think. And again, I always hesitate. I don't want to say, hey, the FBI does it, you should do it. That's not what we're doing here. But we are saying it's a pretty solid reference for IB and our technology. Last topic, portability, mobility. I think that's an interesting concept, and it gets kind of confusing out there, like when you're trying to evaluate what your product should look like. All right, and you think about the concept of mobility has changed so much. Those soldiers in the field, that was mobile, right? You used to be able to move a kit from a desktop to a desktop. That was mobile. Obviously, we got kind of greedy about what we wanted. We want lighter. We want better, and we are seeing devices that were created for that. So we do always tell our customers when they're evaluating products, think about weight. It's not just what the weight is in the officer's arm. It's shipping it. It's sometimes getting it to foreign places. You save a lot of money in that area. Storage size, durability. You don't want to be out there constantly replacing things. Power requirements. We've already talked about it, but it means less batteries. If you're in a place that's compromised in terms of available electricity, which we saw a lot of this. We sold a lot of our product into Nigeria last year because they were trying to do enrollments well out into the Netherlands. Anyway, way out with no electricity, and the issues with direct sunlight certainly came into that. And again, you've got an officer at a roadside or whatever, they have to think about that. So we always just say, look at these things, because when you're evaluating your mobile solutions, you want to look at FBI certifications, and they're not all the same. You've got a lot of our competitors out there that have FBI, PIV, Appendix F certification, but if you go and you look at the documents behind, many will say not to be used outside, not to be used in direct sunlight. So yeah, I know, right? So that's why I pointed out, because it's not something you necessarily see when you're, evaluating a data sheet, if you know what I mean. We do say compare apples to apples, make sure you're looking at the same device, the same technology, everything, and then also consider things that are those extraneous things like lower battery, smaller size, shipping costs, and all those, which leads us then to this fabulous new product from Kopernik.